host for today is Ray Flores. You may now begin.
Thank you very much, operator. Greatly appreciate it. We are very excited for PBC Fox Fight Night on Saturday night, coming up at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time, live on Fox FS1 and Fox Deportes, all emanating from the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. Today we're going to hear from the fighters in the main event and the co-main event of the evening. Fox PBC Fight Night is headlined by two-time welterweight world champion Showtime Shawn Porter, as he will battle the unbeaten contender that now lives in Germany, Sebastian Formella, in a welterweight title eliminator. We get going at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific time, also featuring a tremendous battle at 154 pounds, featuring super welterweight sensation Sebastian Fundora taking on the hard-hitting contender in Nate Gallimore in a 10-round matchup. Also, top prospect Joey Spencer enters the ring in a 6-round matchup against Sean West. Now, following Fox PBC Fight Night, we will switch over to FS1 for a full slate of bouts, and that is headlined by unbeaten welterweight Livan Navarro taking on the tough contender in Justin Deloach. Now, this man has been very busy over the past several months with the COVID protocols and bubbles on 2 different coasts of the country. One of the smartest people that boxing has ever seen. Please welcome the president of TGB Promotions, my dear friend, Mr. Tom Brown. Tom?
Thank you, Ray, and thanks everybody for joining us once again for what I think is going to be another terrific night of boxing on Fox PBC Fight Night from our bubble at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. As Ray said, we have two-time welterweight champ Showtime Shawn Porter with his fan-friendly style against the unbeaten German contender Sebastian Formella in the IBF welterweight eliminator. Now, Sebastian and his team were very happy to get the call for this fight. He's acknowledged how good of a fighter he thinks Porter is, and he knows this is his opportunity to prove that he belongs with the best. And we know what Shawn's coming off of that terrific, for some people, fight of the year fight back in September with Errol Spence, where it's not always possible, but Shawn's stock went up that night. It was a terrific fight. The Athletic called it the fight of the year, and it's going to be great to have Shawn motivated and back in the ring Saturday night. I'm really looking forward to it. As Ray mentioned, we also have the rising prospect Joey Spencer back in action in a 6-rounder on the broadcast. And this is a fight coming up that I've really been looking forward to with the undefeated Sebastian, the Towering Inferno, Fundora, and against my friend, the hard-hitting Nate Gallimore in a 10-round super welterweight fight. Nate's been, as he'll tell you, he's been sending me emails and contacting us for probably, Nate, the last 6 months? He wants to get back in the ring. He wants to prove himself again. And this is a terrific card. I'm really looking forward to it.
Sebastian to another. This Sebastian, though, will be in the main event against Showtime Shawn Porter PBC Fox Fight Night, brought to you by TGB Promotions and presented by Premier Boxing Champions. As we look ahead towards the 33-year-old who was originally born in Poland, now living in Hamburg, Germany, turned pro in 2014 at 26 years of age. He has risen up the ranks by winning 3 straight 12-round decisions heading into his U.S. debut on Saturday night. Actually spent some time training at Ismael Salas' gym in Las Vegas, where he sparred with your Dennis Ugas, who happens to be a former opponent for Shawn Porter leading up to this matchup. He's undefeated, 22 wins, no losses, 10 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sebastian Formella. Sebastian.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Sebastian, if you have any opening comments for the media listening around the world.
Okay.
If you have, how has training gone for you?
Oh. I'm ready for the questions.
Okay, well, let's open it up to the operator if they have any questions for Sebastian Formella, who will be taking on Showtime Shawn Porter this upcoming Saturday night, live from the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. Operator?
Just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. We're going to give it just a second for the queue to build. Okay, looks like our first question is going to come from Michael Rosenthal. Michael, your line is open.
Hello, Sebastian. You've been in some big fights, obviously, over in Europe, but this is a big, big deal, obviously, for you. It's a big, big fight, really big exposure for you. Are you excited for this fight?
Yes, of course. I'm happy to have the chance to fight one of the best welterweight boxer, Shawn Porter, and we'll do all. I'm ready for the fight. I train very hard, and I'm very excited to do it.
We all know what Shawn's style is. He's a swarming guy who's just all over you the entire fight. How do you prepare for a guy like that?
We make a plan A, B, and C because he's a very strong fighter who comes forward and attacks somebody and go to the body, go to the head with very strong hands. And we make a plan to fight him. How we saw his mistakes and make a plan to fight him with good box style. So
okay.
I think a good move because I'm a good footwork and can move around. I'm fast and I think it's a good fight. And I have good skills to make the life of Shawn Porter in the ring very difficult.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck to you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. It looks like our next question is going to come from John Cudney. John, your line is open.
Oh, hi, Sebastian. So
Hi, John.
For fans in the U.S. who aren't familiar with your style, just wondering if you could describe your style and your greatest strengths as a fighter.
I'm a fighter who moves very often my body, fight with my reflex. So was fast, move around with the footwork, have a good distance, and I'm not the hard puncher like other boxers, but a very smart fighter who have often idea to make the life of the other boxer very difficult in the ring. So yeah, that's my style. Move around, fight very much fights with my jabs, move around many hands, fast hands. That what makes me strong. Smart fighting.
Okay, and what would you say gives you confidence in your victory on Saturday night?
Again, please. So my footwork and my reflex, my fast jab. So everybody knows Shawn Porter. He's attacking very hard. The best styles towards in the infight, and I must take care of that to not make too much infight with Shawn Porter, and we'll fight with my plan.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good luck on Saturday night.
Welcome. Thanks. You're welcome, Shawn.
Our next question is going to come from Reggie Woodson. Reggie, your line is open.
Hi, Sebastian, and welcome to the United States.
Hello. Thank you.
So they just mentioned you were able to get here and get in some work with your Danish you guys. Anything were you able to take away from that to kind of gauge the difference in the styles over here in the States versus, what you've seen thus far in your career?
Du kannst sagen, also wir sind ja genau, du hast ja nur eine Woche mit Ugas gemacht, hast ja genug andere in der Türkei.
We have, yes, we make an Ugas here 1 week sparring, but I have a lot of sparring partner in Turkey, many strong fighter who makes infights like Shawn Porter. That was the 2 weeks where we made the point where infighter in the 2 weeks in the Turkey, and now the last week was with Ugas where we make sparring in America. Of course, it's a different sparring because he's also one of the best fighter, very strong, but I learn a lot and see that I can fight with the strongest fighter in the ring. I see it in the sparring.
Okay. Last question. You get over here, and you would have be the visitor, but now we don't have any crowds. So, do you think that that's somewhat of an advantage for you, or is it a chance for a guy like Shawn to be more focused because there's no crowd noise? What's your thoughts on fighting?
The one thing what makes me very sad is I cannot have the public and the people in the stadium. Yes, the atmosphere in America is for every fight so crazy and so beautiful, and that I cannot feel that because the hall or the stadium is empty, the Microsoft Theater is empty. That make me a little bit sad, but I think for the fight it's good because Shawn Porter knows to fight when 5,000, 10,000 people are crying for him. But this time it's an empty Microsoft Theater. Maybe it's like sparring. Yeah, nobody is so loud. The atmosphere is not so crazy like normally. So maybe it's a good thing for me because it's maybe like sparring and the atmosphere is not grow up the boxer.
Okay, thank you. Best of luck to you Saturday.
Thanks.
Thanks, Richie.
Our next question is going to come from Adriana Noriega. Adriana, your line is open.
Hi, Sebastian. Looking forward to your fight this Saturday. Hi. Obviously, it's an important fight, one step closer to potentially fighting for the WBC and IBF title down the line. What would you say are the keys to victory for the Saturday night?
What I said before, the movement of me, yes, my footwork, my fresh style, and my mind, also my mindset, yes. I say all the time, strong mind, strong life, yes. So I will go to the fight and give 120%, yes. And when I start to move around and make maybe Shawn Porter a little bit crazy, so it is difficult for him to reach me, so maybe it was really a very interesting fight for everybody.
Yeah, Porter can have the different styles of fighting. What is it that you have to most avoid from him? What do you have to watch out for?
Straight rate of the kill. Yeah, he has many good, but he has also he can fight in the front and also in the back, yes. So he's a completely fighter, yes. But we have a plan to beat him, and that is what we will do.
Right. Now, you obviously had some sparring with Yordenis Ugas, who just last year fought Porter in a close fight. Did he give you any advice in your upcoming fight with Porter?
Yes, of course. I was in the Academy of Salas, so here he can translate it, and of course I asked him, what do you have some tips for me, because he's also fighting with his jab and stay stable and make a very strong fight against Shawn Porter. And it was very good to make with him sparring because I learned a lot in the 1 week and can practice this on the fight.
Now, this fight is a title eliminator for the fight between Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. Who do you believe will win in that fight?
Yes, of course. I'm the IBO World Champion, yes. I know it's not one of the biggest titles, but I'm IBO World Champion. And now it's very important. A win again, Shawn Porter open a door for other fights, yes, for our big fights. Yes, it's so many big fights in welterweight. It's strong, and to fight in America. When I make a very good fight, you have a special fight, so it's not care about losing or winning, but it's caring in America. It's most important that you stay for you, yes. So when you go in the fight and do all what you can do and fight 12 rounds, so the American will say, yeah, that's a good guy. And when we give me promise other fights in America where I can show more skills of me, so that is a very important fight for me.
Absolutely. Now, in that fight in November, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, who do you think will win in that fight?
It's a very close fight, yes. It's both of them is very strong, but for me, it's Spencer, one of the best fighter, yes. I think Spencer will win the fight.
All right. Thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck on Saturday night. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Man.
We have another question from Keith Idek. Keith, your line is open.
Yes, hi, Sebastian. I was just wondering, the fight between Ugas and Porter, who did you think won that fight?
My real opinion, I think Ugas. Because it's one of the, I don't look many fights of Shawn Porter, but this fight I look because Ugas boxed nearly
similar style, but he's physically more stronger than me. But he fight also a long style, and so I looked the fight, and it was a very close fight. But Ugas was the challenger, and he attacked Shawn Porter. I think it was a close fight, but I think nobody can start to cry if Ugas had filmed the fight. Yes, it was a very close fight, but it was a good fight. Yeah.
How did you feel that your sparring against Ugas went? I know you said you got a lot from it. How did you do, in your opinion, against Ugas when you sparred with him?
It was very, very well, yes, because it was my first time to spar with somebody of the top 10 in welterweight, and I was also very excited how it works and what is my standing. And when I was there, we make 1 week sparring, and it was very well. Yes, we make more than 6 rounds, 8 rounds together, and I must not hit me against that boxer. So I would say that it was a very good for my mindset to say, okay, I can fight with that guys, and that was very good that Ugas made sparring with me, yes, and he was also preparation for his fight, and it was so good. So I have my mindset grow up for the fight against Shawn Porter.
You mentioned your IBO championship earlier. Is that title at stake on Saturday night?
No, it's only an Eliminator, IBF, and WBC.
Okay. Thank you, Sebastian.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much to Sebastian Formella. Sebastian, do you have any final comments?
Yes, I would say I'm very happy to fight here in America and the mecca of boxing. Now I boxed 20 years, and I'm so happy when I get the chance to box one of the welterweight champions and the best class and the strongest class of boxing now, and I'm so happy, and I will show the people in America what can happen when you believe in yourself, yes, and I will fight on Saturday and make it very difficult to Shawn Porter and make a special fight for all the people who make on the TV and sitting there and look at the fight. It would be a very good fight, and thanks for the chance.
All right, thank you very much to Sebastian Formella. Now we transition to his adversary on Saturday night. Don't forget PBC Fox Fight Night coming your way this Saturday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific Time, live on Fox. Following our main event of the evening, more action on FS1 as we welcome in a man who is born in Akron, Ohio, now living and training out of Las Vegas, 32 years of age, who owns title-winning victories over the likes of Danny Garcia, Devin Alexander, also picking up wins over top fighters such as Adrian Broner, Dennis Ugas, and Andre Berto. He is without a doubt an all-action fighter who has been in numerous Fight of the Year contenders, having most recently been a part of 2019, one of the best fights in 2019, as he dropped a narrow decision against Errol Spence Jr. in the welterweight unification matchup. His record, 30 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 17 wins coming by way of knockout. This guy has fought everybody at 147, and he continues in that same mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the always entertaining, the always in shape. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Showtime, Shawn Porter. Shawn?
Awesome. As always, beautiful introduction. And thank everybody for being on this call right now. I thank everybody for putting forth all the efforts that need to be put forth in order to make this happen. I know a lot of fighters right now in the world are wanting to fight, including myself. And I think with this fight for me, it was just a matter of getting boxing back going. And I know boxing has started back in June. We've had a couple of big fights since June, but I really do think that boxing gets kicked off on August 22nd with Showtime Shawn Porter versus Sebastian Formella. We've trained extremely hard. We have endured the conditions that everyone else has endured, and we made the best of every opportunity we've had. We started camp in my dad's backyard, punching a bag, hanging from a tree. That was back in April. Since April, we've built out the backyard. We have a rack, a couple of bags up. speed bags, ab work, exercises we can do. My dad installed turf in the backyard to do exercises on the turf. He's got a pool in the backyard. We've been able to do everything that we would do against any other fighter. We've been able to do all of that in preparation for this fight against Sebastian Formella. I do know Formella. I know that he is a boxer. I know that he likes to use the outside. He likes to move, which is not common for most professional fighters. So we're prepared to take the fight to him. Be smart, be very tactical, but be aggressive as always. And we're looking forward to going in there shining, looking great, making a statement to the world that boxing is here, and more importantly, that Showtime Shawn Porter is still here. So I thank you all for being on this call, and I'm ready for your questions.
All right, well, we will turn it over to the operator with questions from the media for the two-time world champion, Showtime Shawn Porter.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to join the queue to ask questions, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. Okay, it looks like our first question is going to come from Mark Lowenwala. Mark, your line's open.
Hey, Shawn, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Good, good. You know, you touched on some of his traits as a fighter, but from what you know and what you were able to see, how would you assess his overall fighting style, Formella's?
I mean, his overall fighting style, in my personal opinion, is it has more of a amateur rhythm because he's not going to stand in the middle of the ring. I don't think he's the type of fighter who can slip and counter the way some fighters can in the professional ranks. So I do think that his style is more of an amateur. He has a very well developed way of fighting that has really emerged him from the amateur program.
Gotcha. And of course, you're no stranger to either Danny Garcia or Spence. How do you see that fight panning out come November?
I think it's even greater fight now than it would have been back in, I believe, January when they were scheduling the fight. Between Errol Spence Jr. coming off of a insane car accident and Danny usually just doing what he does, which is taking his time to get back into the ring, I think that fight would have been premature in January. So I think that now is a great time for that fight. I love the style matchup. Both guys have contrasting styles that can make either one of them win the fight. Both guys have power in both hands. I think Errol Spence Jr. has a little bit more weapons, which is why I would give him. I think that he may very well win the fight. But let's not forget that Danny Garcia is a multi-world champion. I think he's coming to take both belts.
Gotcha. And my last thing, Shawn, is this like one of the more dangerous fights as a boxer, as a former champ that you could ever face when you have something so great in front of you, but you can't get caught slipping at all against this opponent?
You know what? I'm different from most fighters. I think that has become a trend or has been a trend in boxing where the fighter overlooks one fighter because he's looking for something great. But I've learned that a long time ago that you have to take the blessing that's right there in front of you, hone in on that, and make the best of it. And a lot, like I said in my introduction, we literally did everything that in my dad's mind, we did more than what we did in preparation for Errol Spence Jr. So in my personal opinion, I think we did just as much as we would have done getting ready for Spence Jr., Garcia, Keith Thurman, any of those guys. We treated this guy, Sebastian Formella, exactly the same in terms of our preparation and the mindset right now.
Thanks a lot, Shawn.
You got it.
Our next question is going to come from Michael Rosenthal. Michael, your line is open. Michael, your line may be on mute.
Mm-hmm. Michael. Mikey?
Okay, well then we'll move on to Carlos Toro. Carlos, your line is now open.
Hey, Shawn, thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. You know, obviously, with this fight being an IBF and WBC title eliminator, do you kind of see yourself just kind of keeping an eye on that Spence-Danny Garcia fight, and you kind of have a rooting interest in that fight, whether it be maybe getting another rematch against Danny or just wanting to avenge that loss against against Errol Spence?
You know, I think that's the plan. I'm not sure exactly when that plan developed. However, I do know that we were told this fight would be for one eliminator, and then as we approached the fight, it became for two eliminators, IBF and WBC. So I think common sense is all you need to figure out who I should be fighting after this fight. So that's the fight I'm keeping my eye on, but I'm keeping my eye on that fight as a boxing fan. I really do think that's going to be a great fight.
Now, obviously, you know, when you look at this fight and just kind of your mindset heading in, what's kind of been different coming out of this loss to Errol Spence than, say, when you have to sort of bounce back from the loss to Keith Thurman and to Kell Brook in the past?
I promise you, nothing is different. And it starts with my dad. My dad is all about hard work. My dad is all about commitment. He's all about integrity. And we get that in every camp. We get that in every preparation for every fight and every fighter. Doesn't matter who it is. So this fight against Formella wasn't about getting an opponent who wasn't known. It wasn't about getting an opponent who could only do one specific thing in the boxing ring. It was all about who's going to fight Showtime Shawn Porter right now. And it ended up being Sebastian Formella. But for our preparation, the mindset after the fight with Errol Spence Jr., it has always been the same, which is win. Get back in the ring and win, and that's what we're going to do.
Lastly, I believe you mentioned earlier in the call that you were still able to sort of get everything done in training camp as you would for any other fight. But how different has that you have to sort of adjust to things when it comes to training, going to different places, when it comes to the pandemic, gyms closing, and just everything when it comes to preparing for a fight now in 2020?
You know what? We made it happen, and I'll start with this. We were training at a track which was about 30 to 35 miles away from my house. It was a track, nobody's on it, and a brand new high school, brand new track and everything. But they gave it. It was the first high school that opened up the track. We were training there. And my dad said, "Don't you know a principal that lives around here?" So, okay, y'all call him. Call it a principal there, and I'm very active in my community. And I said, "Hey, we need a track to train on. Can we get the keys to the high school track?" And they actually made a spare key for me for the high school that is about a mile and a half away from my house. And I mean, everything was at our disposal. The only major difference, once we started sparring, when we went to the boxing gym, like you guys have done, and I think last weekend you had the fights in terms of wiping off the ring, wiping down the corners, wiping down the canvas, even the stairs. Everything, every single time we were at the gym had to be wiped off, sanitized, gloves, headgear, cup, all of our equipment, everything had to be wiped off. So I think that was really the only adjustment that we had to make. Other than that, it was just a matter of finding sparring partners that could come in that would be safe and give us work. Eventually, we got that. And when I tell you that the Porters are blessed, I mean that in every sense of the word.
Thanks, Shawn, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you, Carlos.
Our next question is going to come from Karen Tate. Karen, your line is open.
Thank you. Hi, Shawn. Good to talk with you again.
Hi,
Thanks
Karen.
for taking the time to do
Thank
this.
You.
We've talked before about your mental strength and just the mental state it takes to fight successfully with so much pressure. And it seems to me you and your team, you train extremely hard, and it seems like you all want to be sure that you're comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Would you say that's accurate?
That is 100% accurate, and that, for me, is something that just kind of happened to develop as a youth. was put in a ton of uncomfortable positions in and out of the ring by my dad, by other people, friends, family, so on and so forth. So very, very comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. I think a lot of times people may view something as there could be pressure coming from a certain situation or just some type of discomfort. But for me, I always thrive in it.
Yeah, and it seems like, you know, the ability to do that is what helps make you so versatile, right?
I think so. I think the ability to understand that my biggest attribute is making someone else uncomfortable. It may mean me doing something that's uncomfortable or me making an adjustment that I just have to make to win a fight. And I'm always willing, and God bless, I'm always able to make those adjustments. I think that that's one big attribute that I have that not many fighters have in the world.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Shawn. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Jeremy Harriges. Jeremy, your line's open.
Hi, Shawn. Thanks for taking the time to talk today. I caught your recent interview with Fight Hype where you predicted a knockout, and I was wondering what makes you feel so confident that a knockout's going to come in this fight?
To keep it plain and simple, one thing we really worked on prior to even knowing we were going to fight Sebastian Formella, we've been working on power for months. We kicked up the strength program, held on to that a little bit longer than we normally would in camp, and I think the power is going to really show up on Saturday night. I know the power is going to really show up on Saturday night.
I know that obviously with the pandemic that it's caused a longer layoff than you would have liked and anyone would have liked. I think this is your second longest layoff since 15 to 16 between Broner and Thurman. Does that make a big difference to how comfortable that you feel in the ring? Is there any fear of ring rust? Does it take longer to acclimate to a real fight? How do you experience that?
None of that at all. And again, to keep it plain and simple, when we spar upwards to 80-90%. I mean, our sparring sessions are like fights. They're mini fights. You know, so if I'm sparring, you know, three sessions and each session is 8 to 10 rounds, I've had 2 fights. I've had 2 6-rounders that week, you know, easily. Mm-hmm. You know, so we crank the intensity up. The intensity stays at a high level, and I think there's no mistake that my intensity is always at a high level when I'm in the ring, and it's because of how we train. So I'm not worried about ring rust.
I know that last week we saw David Benavidez lose his tile on the scale, and obviously making weight is always something that, especially considering now, is not always as easy for fighters that don't have access. Did that kind of jump in your head and give you added caution that no, that's not going to happen to me, or how confident do you feel that your weight's going to be on point?
The added caution was because of COVID. We knew that our protocol wouldn't be the same as it usually is the week of the fight. So we were prepared for everything. And at this point, just got off the phone with the nutritionist before I got on with you guys. He said, do your interviews, lay down, relax, and don't move anymore tonight. You're good. So I have no worries, but, you know, it's all about being a professional. And if anything, you know, I think that right now is what I really want to do with this fight is not only let the fans know that boxing is back and it's alive and it's going to be great this year, even though everything that's happening with this quarantine, this COVID. But it's a message to all the fighters too that it can be done, that we can get out there and we can thrive in these conditions and do what we have to do, not only to be successful but to support our families and be great. And I think that I'm going to set some fine examples. I've been taking some video every day of everything that we have going on, and I'm gonna release that video at the proper time for other fighters to learn from it and make the necessary adjustments.
Shawn, thank you so much for your time and best of luck come Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Our next question is going to come from Adriana Noriega. Adriana, your line is open.
Hi, Shawn. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Looking forward to your fight this Saturday. We know when you get into the ring, we know what you bring. We know the deep experience that you have. Maybe not a lot of people are familiar with Formella, but you've done your research. So, what kind of fight are you expecting it to be this Saturday?
I'm expecting the fight where I think we prepare very well. I think we're prepared to box this guy, be very tactical in terms of our aggression, set him up, and take him out. I think that his movement is what's going to cause some small adjustments, but I would say for the most part we expect to counter this guy and be aggressive like you've seen me in the past, but be smart as well.
When you visualize the victory, I know you mentioned that you can see perhaps a knockout in this fight. Talk to me a little bit more about that and what kind of statement you're looking to make Saturday night.
You know what the statement for me is boxing's back and Showtime. Shawn Porter is still here. I think that statement is going to be very evident as soon as the bell rings. I'm going to come out the same way I've always come out, high energy, fast, quick, sharp, and the fight's going to last as long as Formella allows it to last.
And talk to me about, sparring your dad. That was quite interesting when I heard about that. How was that like? And, at any point did your dad say, like, hey, ease up on me, or,
yep.
anything like that?
Not in those words specifically, but when he told me, he says, you got to get back moving. And this is the end of April, and I just started back training and all that. I'm like, you guys moving? What are you talking about? You got to start back sparring. I'm like, okay. Well, who can we get to come in here and spar? And so myself, Larry Wade, and my dad, we're all, tossing around names and text messages and things like that. And no name came up that my dad felt comfortable with. And he says, you're going to spar with me. I'm like, all right. So that's something I haven't done with my dad since I was a teenager. And the very first day I sparred with him, we only did 4 rounds. And, working on the basics for the first 3 rounds, and even in the 4th round, working on the basics. But, that 30-second bell ticks, and, started to let my hands loose a little bit. Bell rings, and my dad looks at me, he says, what are you doing? I said, what are you talking about? He says, why would you throw that many punches at me right now? I said, I'm just working. He said, Shawn, that's not how you work. I said, what's wrong? He says, I wouldn't tell you to throw 10 to 15 punches at anybody. Why are you doing that to me? I said, I don't know. The 30-second bell rang, and I'm just working. He said, Shawn, right now, the only thing you're working on is the basics of boxing. He said, that's all you need right now. You need to get that together. He said, you don't need to be throwing 10 to 15 punches against me or anybody. If it was anybody else, I'd be yelling at you. And now you're doing it against me, So we had a lot of great moments in the ring. Another funny moment we had is I let my hands go one time and I threw about 6 or 7 fast punches. And my dad looked at me, he said, whoa, it's like a video game. and we both got a good laugh out of that. So we had a good time being in the ring, back in the ring together. I think I sparred with my dad my first 3 weeks back to sparring. And then we found some other guys that we felt comfortable bringing in.
Nice. Now, obviously, this fight is a eliminator for the WBC and IBF. I know you touched up on that fight that we'll see in November between Errol Spence and Danny Garcia, but would you be able to give us a prediction or your thoughts? Obviously, we haven't seen Errol Spence since his car accident, so we don't know how he'll come in. But can you just kind of sum it up what you think, who would win in that fight?
I'll keep it simple. I think that the winner of this fight is going to depend on what Errol Spence shows up to the ring. We know that Errol Spence has been through some things in the past few months. It took some time for him to recover, and then he had to get back training. So the blessing of COVID that, the fight was delayed and other things were delayed as well. He's got a big fight coming up in November now, and I think that this fight depends on what Errol Spence shows up in the ring. We know what Danny was going to get. Danny was very strong against Adrian Granados, but Danny was the same rhythm, same type of speed, same type of cadence, if you will, as he was against me, as he was against the other kid that he fought, Redkish, and a host of other fighters that he's been in the ring with. We know what we're going to get from Dane. We're going to get fast counters. We're going to get some powerful shots. But if Errol Spence is not able to get out of the way of those type of punches, if he's a step behind, any step slower than he was against me, he's going to risk losing 2 belts in November.
Our next question is going to come from TC Martin. TC, your line is open.
What's up, champ?
TC, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, man. I'm not just saying that. I really am sorry.
You're all good, brother. You're all good, man. Hey, I know you've been very resourceful about doing your homework on every opponent, especially for someone like Formella, who there's not a lot of stuff out there, and especially for fans here in the U.S. are not familiar with him. When you look at him and you've done your homework on him, what do you see in him, and does his style remind you of anyone in particular?
Well, TC, you love me, right?
Yep.
Most people tend to love me and have a lot of respect for me, and I'm so humbled by that. We have friends in Germany who were able to give us information on Formella. As soon as we found out we were fighting a German, it was like, okay, we never heard of this guy, we never seen this guy, but I'm sure we'll get something on him. And sure enough, we had people left and right reaching out to us to give us all the film we needed, all of the information we needed. We knew who he was training with in Germany. We knew when he was coming to the United States. We actually did not know that he was arriving to Vegas, but we knew when he was in Vegas, we trained with in Vegas. I mean, I've got eyes on this guy, and I have done everything that I need to do to be ready for this guy. If I had to say who he fights like, I really do think at this point he's his own type of fighter. I don't think any other fighters that I've seen use the ring like this guy. Definitely nobody in the welterweight division right now in the top 5, top 10. I don't think any of those guys use the ring the way that Formella intends to on Saturday night. He's going to be on his bicycle. He's going to be moving, and he's going to be trying to keep me off for the jab. I know that for a fact. So we're going to be smart. We're going to be tactical, and we're going to be aggressive, but not in a hurry.
Does he remind you of anybody that maybe you faced in the past at all? His style?
I can't say that he does. I don't think there's any fighter that I have fought definitely as a professional. I mean, there's some definitely as an amateur. He has a bit of an amateur style. I fought some Russians back in the day who like to use the ring, things like that. But I think that he's coming to the ring with his own type of style. And I don't think he's going to be ready for what these Americans got over here.
Final thing for us, Shawn. Fighting with no fans, you're going to have a quiet atmosphere. I know you've been watching a lot of these fights, and I've talked to a few guys that were really thrown off by this after they had fights. And one particular fighter said, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. Are you concerned about any of that? And what are you anticipating under these conditions?
Oh, I didn't know that anybody didn't like it. I think that once you get in the ring, the adrenaline gets going, the energy gets going, and you do what you have to do. I mean, at the end of the day, these fighters have to remember that careers on the line, wins and losses are on the line, money's at stake, championships are at stake. All of that is on the line, no matter how empty or how quiet an arena is. So I'll speak for myself personally. When boxing was first talking about coming back without fans, I was not for it. I didn't want to do it. But God changed my heart, and I felt like God was telling me to get back in the ring and represent the sport and represent it well. And that's what I'm prepared to do. So I don't care that there's no fans there. I don't care that it's going to be a quiet arena. And I've been watching. I know that Fox plays a little bit of sound during the fight. So I'm going to do the best I can to crank that sound to 100.
There you go. All right. Well, good luck on Saturday, brother. We'll be watching you, man. Good luck, and we know you're ready.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from John Cudney. John, your line is open.
Hi, Shawn.
Hi, John.
So Jermell Charlo and Jason Rosario have a pay-per-view coming up at 154. Just given that you fought most of the top guys at 147, and in the amateurs you fought at 165 very famously against a bunch of big names, have you started to think about fights that could be there for you at 154?
I watched Rosario when he fought J-Rock. I was impressed with his power. I was impressed with him as a boxer. I was impressed with how he handled himself on that stage. I know it wasn't the biggest stage. They were in Philly, but that's still you're taking on a champion in his own hometown. So I was impressed with that. I did watch that fight with thinking, hey, I think I could beat this guy. Most people don't know that I fought in the amateurs at 165, and when I turned pro at 154. So I think the understanding is that at someday we could be fighting at 154, but I do know that 147 is still the weight class for me. We have not had any communications, any talks about it, about moving up or anything like that at all.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Shawn, and good luck on Saturday night.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Reggie Woodson. Reggie, your line is open.
Hey, thanks for your time today, Shawn.
Yeah, kid. What's up?
Hey, I know you're on Fox, and you make time to get out there for the Browns, man. Any level of discomfort about the NFL season and its COVID situation?
I looked at my wife. She ain't having it. And it sucks because I go see the Browns at least once every year. I think last year I went to 3 games. So that sucks. I'm actually watching NFL Network right now. They got the Bengals up, and I'm waiting on the Browns to come back. It definitely is some discomfort. I know that most of the league isn't allowing fans this year. I don't know what the Browns are doing. I'm that crazy of a Browns fan that I would take a chance at going to a game, and if anything were to happen, I know a lot of people would be mad at me and upset that I did it, but I'm that crazy about the Browns. However, I anticipate watching my Browns in my theater room every Sunday this year and a couple of Thursday games that they have.
That's what I thought I'd ask. How do you approach this Formella fight, coming off of the recent opponents and then, trying to work your way back into facing some of those guys and some rematches and whatnot? Does this present a chance to maybe experiment with anything, or is it just straightforward business?
Interesting that you say experiment. I think we're not necessarily going to be experimenting, but you're going to see some very subtle differences in the ring for me on Saturday night. And I think because you haven't seen that before, at some capacity it would be a bit of a experiment, but at the same time it is all business. My dad says if the kid trips because he's nervous, get on him. If the kid is backpedaling and trips because his legs are weak, get on him. He says we're going to be aggressive, but we're not going to be in a hurry, and we're going to be smart. So that's for a majority of it. That's the game plan, and we're going to stick to it. But I think fight fans will be happy with what they see from me on Saturday.
All right. You're arguably, one of the the biggest name to come back to the sport. You're definitely one of the only guys coming off of a pay-per-view, main event and back to the sport. So some guys are able to make different business decisions and sit things out, so on and so forth. But what does it mean for you personally to, like I said, to be one of the biggest names that's out here for us fans to get back to watching?
Yeah, this was my purpose with this fight, is to make that statement that boxing is back on TV. Boxing is back, and you don't have to wait to see great boxing. Great boxing is going to be on TV from here on out, and it starts with me. I know Showtime has made a great announcement. They have some great fights coming up, but I know the Fox has announced I think fights all the way up until the end of September or October. So I think there's a lot of great fights to be made, and boxing is going to be fun to watch. And so I just really wanted to do the best way. I think that this is the best thing I could do to kick off boxing. I think this is, for me, it would be better than, sitting behind a desk talking about the fight, but actually getting in there and doing it. And it was a personal decision on my behalf. I really do feel like in a lot of ways I'm taking the responsibility of boxing in my hands and trying to make a statement to the world that sports are back, but boxing really is back.
Okay, our final question of the day is going to come from John Russell. John, your line is open.
Hello, thanks for taking my call, Showtime. You there?
Mr. Russell, nice to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you. I hope you and your family doing all right.
We are, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you kind of answered my question with the last one, and just know with how much family means to you. Everybody knows what that means to you. Your wife, your kids, and everything with the pandemic. And I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get a chance to see you in D.C. this year, but we'll see you next time. But with everything going on, was there any pushback in saying, maybe I should wait for a little bit later, months down the line, to maybe push this fight down because of the unknowns of the pandemic? And also, my last question for you, did you get any extra motivation by your fellow combat sports champion and Stipe Miocic of Ohio winning his belt last week?
You know what? I think I'll start with Stipe. I think that at the end of the day, he and I are doing the best we can to represent our sports. And I think that he's done a terrific job at being a great family man. I know him personally, great family man, fireman, first responder, and then he takes it upon himself to compete in UFC. And he's done a terrific job, great win the other night, and I was proud of him, and I know everybody back home is proud of him. He continues to stay on that high level in the sport, and it's a very, very tough thing to do. I know that from being able to do it myself. And I think that really for us, in terms of the precautions, it was, okay, when can we get back in the ring? We were here in June. We were here in July, and July turned into August. And I think it turned into August just because of the extra precautions and things like that. My wife really is the only one who's like, cover up, do this, do that. I don't want you going anywhere. Maybe we should stay in. I'm like, love, I gotta my training in, So I think that we as a team, my team is my family. We as a family, we did everything that we could do to make it to this point. We played everything close since we've been here. We'll make sure that we're safe while we're here, and looking forward to getting home on Sunday.
Well, good luck, Showtime. Thanks for everything. Send love to your family.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we want to go ahead and close out the call. Shawn, if you have any final parting comments, we greatly appreciate how generous you were with your time as you prepare for your main event matchup this Saturday, live on Fox 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time against Sebastian Formella.
You know what? I think I'm at the end of the line now. Not much to be said at this point. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and for being excited that I'm getting back in the ring. I'm excited myself, and I'm humbled to see other people get excited about myself, about boxing. So, as I said earlier, I'm looking forward to getting in there and representing the sport well, representing my family, my team, the best way that I can, and definitely be looking out after this fight. I'm starting a podcast. The Welterweight podcast is going to be built all around boxing, sports, family, the whole nine. So I appreciate all of the support, and we will see you very soon.
All right, that'll conclude our conference call. Don't forget PBC on Fox this Saturday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time, brought to you by TGB Promotions. Following Porter and Formella, flip on over to FS1 for more outstanding